Welcome po sa The Hague, Netherlands. Yung mga iba po nanggaling pa po ng France, ng Germany, ng Sweden, may bumibisita galing po Pilipinas, at iba't ibang dako ng Netherlands. At maraming salamat po sa pagpunta po yung ngayon araw dito. At marami rin tayo.
40.
40 plus.
Wow!
Ang pag-uusapan po natin ngayon ay mga constitutional reforms na isusulong ng Duterte administration. Ang tatlo po dito ay Federalism, ang shift to Parliamentary system, at ang tinatawag na economic liberalization. At mapalad po tayo kasi po ang ating speaker po ngayon ay meron po siyang trabaho sa France at naisingit po natin itong araw na ito sa kanya. Siya po si Orion Perez. Ano pa parating pa ha? May nag-door parating pa. Siya po ay tubong Cebu. At kung hindi niyo po siya nakikilala, kung nanonood mo ng Battle of the Brain, siya po ang kung hindi ka na mag-champion. At matagal niya na pong advokasya constitutional reforms na ito. Siya po ang isa sa mga founders ng Correct Philippines na
Since 2011, early 2010, late 2010.
Since 2010 pa po sila nag-e-educate ng mga tao tungkol sa constitutional reforms. Kaya kasabhasan po si Orion dito. At hindi ko na papatagalin, let's welcome Orion Perez.
Okay, maayong adlaw kaninyong tanan. Laro kay Kabisaya ko. Tungod sa akong makabisaya, siyempre po Federalism. Anyway, Tagalog tayo para sa lahat. Kailangan yata English. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so I'll do this in English for the benefit of everyone here, including the non-Filipinos. What I'm about to talk about, I'll introduce myself. My name is Orion Perez and I've been fighting for constitutional reforms for a very long time. So, most of us, when we talk about reforms, the most popular one is federalism, okay? And it has reached a point where the word federalism is now being used to represent all the three major constitutional reforms, okay? Nangyari dyan, para siyang, it's like a combo meal, right? When you talk about a combo meal, you know those set meals in the McDonald's or something, you're probably gonna say, oh, we've got a chicken meal. Oh, basically, it's fried chicken together with, I don't know, fries, and then maybe a drink. But usually, you would have these as separate orders, right? You would have Coke as a separate order, fries as a separate order, and the chicken itself as a separate order. And what they've decided is to put these together as one combo meal, and it's cheaper. Okay, it's cheaper because you're ordering it as one set. Now, people will just call it, oh, I'll just get the chicken meal. That's the same thing now with federalism. We actually have three reforms. It's not just one reform, it's three reforms that we are all pushing for. All right? And what's been happening is federalism has become the catchphrase, the catch-all term to refer to all these reforms. So, let's talk about these reforms. I will order them in the way I have traditionally ordered them because, as you've heard, I am with this advocacy called the Correct Movement, or otherwise known as Correct Philippines. The Correct Movement means constitutional reform. reform and rectification for economic competitiveness. And transformation. The CO is put like that, and they all spell out as correct. Okay? Constitutional reform and rectification for economic competitiveness and transformation. So this part is very important. Economic competitiveness and transformation. We are not pushing for these reforms for the sake of pushing for reforms. We're not changing the form of government for the sake of changing the form of government. We're not making changes to the Constitution just because we want to. We're doing this because it is absolutely important for us to attain economic competitiveness and transformation. We want to change Philippine society. And the biggest single problem of the Philippines has been massive unemployment. Massive chronic unemployment causing massive chronic poverty. Okay? So, for that reason, if we're going to talk about the order of the reforms based on economic competitiveness and transformation, the first and most important part of all these reforms is economic liberalization. Right. Economic liberalization. I'm very sure you've noticed that jobs are so scarce in the Philippines. Kaya nga tayo nandito, di ba? I mean, that's why so many of us have become OFWs. You're all considered OFWs. I'm an OFW. I'm based in Singapore. It happens that the company I work for has an HQ in Paris. That's why I was there. But there are so many of us. More than 10 million, I think the figures are probably now more than 12 million, I think. Probably more than 12 million Filipinos abroad, most of which are working in companies abroad or working in households abroad because there are no jobs back in the Philippines. Very few jobs. Of course there are jobs, but they're very few. And those few jobs that do exist, they pay very low wages. Right? That's why, again, we find it advantageous to leave and work abroad. So what do we need in the Philippines? We need more jobs. How do we make more jobs happen? What's the fastest way to create jobs? It's to bring in foreign direct investors. Okay? I know it's been... I'm sure na medyo paminsan tatagalog din naman. Paminsan iniisip ng mga tao, ba't natin papapasukin yung mga foreign investor? Di ba baka magte-take over sila sa atin? Well, think about the fact that Singapore, okay, ang Singapore, siya ngayon ang pinakamayamang bansa. It's the richest country in Asia as far as GDP per capita is concerned. Okay? It's richer, it has a higher GDP per capita than Japan. Back in 2010, I think 2011, Japan was still number one. But I think around 2012, na overtake ng Singapore ang Japan in terms of GDP per capita. What did Singapore do? Singapore was open to foreign direct investors. They, as much as possible, said, we want foreign investors to come in, invest, and create jobs. And we don't care if you own majority or 100% of the company that you set up in our country. That's what they did. And because of that aggressive attraction of foreign direct investors into Singapore, dumami ang trabaho sa Singapore. There are so many job openings in Singapore such that the number of jobs exceeded the number of citizens in Singapore. That's why Singapore has had to import people like me and other Filipinos and people from all around the world to work in jobs in Singapore because of a labor shortage. It's a good problem to have, I would say. Because the worst problem to have is there are too few jobs. Don't you think? Diba?
Lilipat na po kami doon.
Lilipat kayo sa Singapore? Hindi, pero kumbaga, between having too many jobs and having too few jobs, mas maganda yung too many jobs. Kasi total, kung magkakaroon kayo ng mga foreign workers na mag-work, you can actually later integrate them, or at some point, kung let's say sometimes there are jobs that also move abroad, mga manufacturing jobs. At some point, manufacturing jobs may also leave. Those people will, well, the people who are the foreign workers will go with those jobs as well. What is important is we concentrate on creating jobs for our people. So what do we want to do? We want to be open to having more foreign investors in the Philippines. Eh ano yung pinakamalaking sagabal sa pagpasok ng foreign direct investors sa Pilipinas?
Pag-process ng mga documents, it takes no.
Part yan. It's the Constitution. So, yung nakikita natin, tayong ordinaryong Pilipino, nakikita natin yung maraming red tape. Ang nakikita ng multinational company na nagtitingin na, where will I want to invest in Southeast Asia. What they're going to do is they're going to look at all the different countries. They're going to look at the different constitutions of the different countries. And they will see one country that is standing out. And that one country that is standing out as the place that they feel is unwelcoming to foreign direct investors is the Philippines. Because we are the only country in that part of the world that explicitly says that if you want to invest, if you are a foreigner and you want to invest in the Philippines, you're only limited to 40%. 40% ownership. Whereas Malaysia, they have provisions to allow 100% ownership. In Singapore, they are very open. Even small companies can be owned by foreigners. Okay? The rest of Southeast Asia is following what Singapore has been doing. Indonesia is doing that. Thailand has been doing that. Myanmar has been doing that. And now Myanmar has been able to solve one of the problems they had, which was massive unemployment. Many people from Myanmar who were working in Singapore have since gone back to Myanmar because they opened up their economy to more foreign direct investors. Okay? So that's why we need this economic liberalization. Removal of those restrictions that prevent foreign direct investors from coming in. Okay?
What is the reason why the Philippines just allow 40%?
Because the Constitution in 1987 was written by people who were misinformed about how economics works. They were more focused on sentiment and emotion rather than in logic and understanding how economics works. They were much more, yung sariling atin kailangan natin protektahan. Pero protektahan nyo yung mga oligarch lang. Ang nagsulat dyan, di ba, mga oligarchs. Basically, hindi nila inisip ang kapakanan ng ordinaryong Pilipino na manggagawa, ordinaryong Pilipinong naghahanap ng trabaho. Ang pinoprotektahan nilang rights ay yung rights ng mga mayayaman na Pilipino na gustong maging monopoly owner
ng Pilipinas.
Di ba? Yes.
But if we have to take Singapore as a model, but as I see it, because Singapore has no natural resources as we do have abundantly, how can we prevent that our natural resources be exploited?
Well, first of all, before we get into that, let's look at how did countries like Brunei and Saudi Arabia become the relatively rich countries they are today. Let's look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia today is an oil-rich country. They have oil underneath, but they did not have that technology before. Not at all. Who helped them to make it happen? It was American companies, right?
And European.
So what are the companies? See, Danny here actually, Aramco. Before Aramco, kasi Aramco is really just a, parang lang siya, consortium. Diba? There was Caltex, there was Tex, yun. There were several American companies that went to Saudi Arabia and did exploration. They did exploration with the express permission of the king, of the Al Saud family. And so they said, ganito, kayo, wala kayong technology para kunin ang oil na nasa ilalim, magkaroon tayo ng agreement, sharing agreement. Kami, papasok kami, kikita kami ng pera dun sa pero magkakaroon din kayo ng malaking windfall. Meron kayong royalties na ma-earn. It's a win-win situation. Kasi kung walang pumasok na foreign investors sa Saudi Arabia, kung hindi pumasok yung mga Amerikano, yung mga American oil companies dyan, ano sila ngayon? Di mga pastol ng mga tupa, at saka ng camels, at saka ng mga kambing. Yun lang. Ha? Ang Brunei, ganun din. Brunei, what was it? Fishing village yung talaga siya. Oh. Tapos, pumasok ang Royal Dutch Shell. Nandito lang sa dito lang sa dahil, diba? Oh. Yung Royal Dutch Shell, pumasok sa Brunei, sinabihan ang Bolkiah family, uy, kayo yung may naghahari-hari nito. Ngayon, tingin namin, may makukuhang oil dyan sa lugar ninyo sa may offshore, Okay lang ba? Tapos bigyan namin kayo ng share? Sabi naman ng Bolkiah, sa bagay, kung wala rin naman kayo, mananatili lang kaming mga mangingisda. Ngayon, one of the richest families ang Bolkiah family, di ba? Kasi hindi sila swapang.
Open sila.
Ang mga oligarch sa Pilipinas, swapang.
Ayaw nila.
Ang problema, swapang sila, tayo walang trabaho.
Nadali mo.
Di ba? Yung mga, at least man lang yung sa Saudi Arabia, yung sa Brunei, sabi nila sa mga kumpanya na yan na banyaga, pasok kayo, pero mag-hire kayo ng tao namin, ha? So, ganon. So, yun naman ang importante. Like in Singapore, totoo, walang natural resources ang Singapore. They bring in all these manufacturing companies, trading companies, everything. Pero tingnan natin ang nangyari sa China. China has a lot of resources also. Indonesia has resources also. And these are very, very big countries. Right? What did they do? They learned from Singapore. Time ni Deng Xiaoping, 1970s yun. Namatay si Mao Zedong. Tapos, si Mao Zedong was extremely, parang communistic talaga siya. Very dogmatic. Si Deng Xiaoping, he's a very practical-minded guy. And he felt the things that Mao Zedong was doing, they made us poorer, they made us more miserable. And we need to do things differently. So he learned from Singapore. He did a state visit to Singapore in 1978. And then he asked Lee Kuan Yew, what's the secret of why you guys are doing well economically? And Lee Kuan Yew told him that, we've decided to allow foreign investors to come in, to create jobs, etc., and so forth. Tinry agad ni Deng Xiaoping yun. He went back to China and he said, okay, let's do a test scenario. Let's open up a small place that will follow what Singapore is doing. Yun yung Shenzhen. Are you familiar with Shenzhen? Yeah, Shenzhen is just outside of Hong Kong, right? What he did was, he set up this small village, sleepy village, turned it into one big parang export processing zone, and he invited companies that were already in Hong Kong. Okay? Na mas mura dito, gawin niyo na lang yung mga pabrika niyo dito sa amin. So all these Hong Kong businessmen and foreign businessmen who were based in Hong Kong, they started putting up their factories there for 1/4 or 1/5 the price of what they would pay in Hong Kong. Okay? And that's That became a very successful thing, and Deng Xiaoping decided, let's replicate this all throughout the rest of China, starting with the rest of the other coastal cities. O ngayon, mayaman ng China. Napag-uunahan na tayo. The Philippines used to be richer than China. Now what are we? We're way behind them. Because China, although it's supposed to be headed by a communist party, they're actually more capitalist than we are. They're more practical-minded. Sige, pasok kayo, basta, i-hire nyo lang yung mga tao namin. Yung pag-hire nila ng mga tao, yung mga tao niyan, empleyado, natututo sila. Natututo sila ng sistema ng mga foreign companies niya. They learn, and then later on, some of them, after learning so much good stuff, they make their own companies. I mean, it's the same thing with SAP. Who's familiar with SAP? Yeah, SAP. SAP is the German software company. Yeah? You know that one? Yeah. How did it start? How did SAP start? SAP started off as the brainchild of several ex-engineers, ex-software engineers who were working in IBM. They were former IBM employees. And what is IBM? IBM is not a German company. IBM is an American company, right? So these guys were working for an American multinational company. They learned a lot of things, and then they decided, let's make our own company thanks to all the stuff that we learned working for IBM.
There's knowledge transfer.
Knowledge transfer. So, there's so many good things that can happen from having foreign direct investors coming in. The most important one is that we solve the unemployment problem. We solve the poverty problem. We solve the crime problem. So many of our problems are actually all based on the fact na kakaunti lang ang trabaho sa Pilipinas. Yung krimen, nagiging krimen na ng maraming tao dahil walang trabaho, nagdanakaw kasi walang trabaho, ganyan. Kung may trabaho sila, magiging magnanakaw pa sila? Magiging kidnapper pa sila? Hindi. Di ba? So, malaking solusyon talaga sa problema ng Pilipinas. Yung economic liberalization, allowing foreign investors to easily come in, so we solve the poverty problem. Mamaya na natin pag-isipan yung mga banyaga sila, they will take over a country. Mamaya na yan. Unahin muna natin magkatrabaho ang mga ordinaryong Pilipino. Diba? Kasi ang nangyari sa 1987 Constitution, pinoprotektahan ang interes ng mga mayayamang pamilya. O edi sila lang ang mayaman, edi yung ordinaryong Pilipino na naghahanap ng trabaho, bagong graduate pero naghahanap ng mapapasukan, wala namang trabaho. Paano yan? Engineer, tapos pupunta sa ibang bansa, magiging construction worker lang. Diba? Sayang.
Like yung news sa Germany, yung Chinese government, they send scholars, yung mga matatalino nilang estudyante, pinapadala nila sa mayamang bansa, industrialized country, no? After that, kapag yung mga estudyante yan nakatapos, babalik sila sa China.
Yes.
Ang problema sa atin, iba ang mentality natin, no? Kapag nakatapos na, alam na natin.
Ayun nga eh.
Diba? Sad to say.
So,
Tapos sasabihin natin, we are proud.
So, ayan, economic liberalization, ibig sabihin dyan yung 60-40, yung mga ibang restrictions, dapat tanggalin. Diba? Ngayon, kapag nagkaroon tayo ng economic liberalization, and that's the easiest thing to do, ha? That's the easiest thing to do kasi sa constitution natin, you just delete, erase, remove those particular restrictions sa constitution natin. Tanggalin mo lang. You don't have to replace it with something that says, we will allow everyone to have 100%. You don't have to say that. Basta tanggalin mo lang yung mga restrictions. And, so pag nagkaroon tayo nito, dadami ngayon ng mga interesadong mag-invest sa Pilipinas. Dadami ang mga trabaho. Pero, hindi naman po pwede, we cannot just have the jobs all going to Metro Manila. Diba? Once you start allowing foreign investors to come in, you cannot just say, okay, pasok kayo sa Pilipinas, tapos lahat sila pupunta sa Manila. Kasi naandun yung mga infrastructure, naandun yung mga approval, yung mga offices na kailangan lang magpa-approval, ganyan, kaya sa Manila na lang sila magsiset up. Hindi pwede. Kasi sobrang sikip na sa Manila. Sobrang traffic na sa Manila. Diba? Sobrang polluted na Manila. So, kaya kailangan natin ng federalism. Ang federalism, ang trabaho ng federalism is to make sure na yung mga trabaho na create ng economic liberalization, which is number 1, mai-spread out sa rest of the country. Diba? So, how does it work? Simple lang. We empower the regions to basically chart their own economic course. We tell them, we give them the powers to attract and retain foreign direct investors and local investors. So it's not just foreign investors. It means also that some places like Davao can invite Ayala Corporation from Manila to come over and set up malls or whatever, right? So it's not just about foreign investors. It's about allowing the regions to be open enough to develop themselves, to bring in investors in their area and create jobs in their area. And that's important because without federalism, we're still going to have the whole problem of migration. Right?
Yeah.
The first step of migration is people from the provinces go to Manila. Tapos walang trabaho sa Manila, they go abroad. What we want is there will be a lot of jobs everywhere. Okay? So, let's remember guys, importante talaga na magkaroon din ng economic liberalization. Hindi uubra ang federalism kung wala ito. Okay? Kumbaga, ito yung job generating or job attracting mechanism. Federalism is the job distribution system.
Hindi po ba, it's not the other way around kasi po yung sa federalism, each federal state, they are also allowed at may karapatan din po silang magdesisyon kung paano nila papatakbo yung sarili nilang ekonomiya.
Yes.
O baka pwede una federalism bago yung independent federal state na maggawa ng kanilang sariling ekonomiya.
Okay, ang problema kasi, when we don't do this, actually, kung tutuusin, lahat ng mga ito, sabay-sabay silang ilalagay sa Constitution. Sabay-sabay silang gagawin. Pero the fastest thing to take effect is this one.
To change the Constitution.
Yeah. Because this is text. Text lang siya eh. You just remove the restrictions from the Constitution and it's already in effect. Ito, federalism, mangangailangan pa yan ng transition. May transition pa yan. May transfer of power from the national government to the regional governments.
No, I mean, it's parang nagiging redundant kasi pag gagawin natin economic liberation tapos maggagawa ng federalism is parang na-double na siya. Kasi pag uunahin natin yung federalism tapos bibigyan natin ang kalayaan bawat independent federal state na magdesisyon ng sa kanilang paraan kung paano nila palalaguin ang kanilang sariling ekonomiya.
Kasi yung mga federal states na yan, yung mga federated states, or component states, are not really independent. They're still part of the Philippines. And what happens is, pag hindi natin tinanggal yung mga restrictions sa Constitution, hindi pa rin makakapasok yung mga investors sa Pilipinas sa kanilang mga region. So for example, if Region 7, which is where Cebu is, tries to bring in as many foreign investors as possible, the foreign investors will say, hey, Cebu, Region 7, we're very happy that you're trying to invite us to come in. But you're probably forgetting that we're not allowed to go in because of your constitution. So there is the problem in the Philippines is we have this big, how do you say this, force field that is covering the entire Philippines. So even if the different regions want to say we're going to be open to bringing in foreign direct investors. Pero nakatakip pa rin yung parang force field na yan, hindi makakapasok pa rin yung foreign investors. Kaya tanggalin natin yung force field na yan. And in fact, once you remove this, sa federalism, it's actually bahala na yung region na mag-decide kung gusto nilang maging bukas o gusto nilang maging sarado. Kasi kung may ibang region dyan na gusto talaga nila na ipoprotect, sige, bahala kayo. Pero yayaman yung iba. Yung ibang bukas, dadami ang trabaho, yayaman sila. O kayong mga gusto maging sarado, sige, bahala kayo. But after a few years, they will see, naku, wala talagang trabaho dito. Lahat ng mga tao namin nagmamigrate sa ibang mga region kasi walang trabaho dito. Then they will change their way of doing things. Diba?
Kung aalisin yung restriction, hindi kaya magiging loophole naman yan para ma-exploit or magkaroon ng corruption practices again.
Okay, so we're going to get there. No? Kasi when you talk about the corruption part, the efficiency part, the third part of what we've been talking about is the need for an efficient form of government. Okay?
Effective.
We currently have a lousy form of government, the worst ever. Huh? We have the worst ever form of government. We have a presidential system that allows us to have a president from one party and a vice president from another party. Ano ba naman yan? Ha? Magkokompetensya sila. Diba? And then we have a Senate where what you basically do is you choose 12 names. Ano yan? In other countries where they have a Senate, ang gagawin nila is you vote them per region or per state. Diba? Ganun sa states eh. But sa atin, 12 names. You can only usually remember that there's probably 5 names that you can remember. Ang nangyayari because of you're forced to put 12 names, nagkakaroon dyan pumapasok yung name recall. Kasi yung top 5 na gusto mo, lalagay mo dyan, tapos meron pang 7 na naiiwan na slot. Sino pa kayang i-add ko? Para hindi masayang. Yeah. Ang naaalala mo, yung mga sikat, yung mga artista, yung mga ganun.
Maraming ads.
Yung mga may maraming ads. So, nangyayari dyan, yung sometimes the people who get the highest votes are not necessarily the people that everybody, that had the most number of people considering them to be their favorite. No. It's very possible that the person who gets the highest number of votes is actually the person who is number 12 on everyone's list. Saling pusa lang siya, pero siya yung pinakamaraming nakakaalala sa kanya. Diba? So, we need to have a new form of government. We need to have a parliamentary system. Under a parliamentary system, we're going to have more emphasis on parties and platforms. Okay? And it's very likely to happen almost instantaneously. I'm not saying it's going to be instantaneous, it's going to be almost instantaneously. Okay? Mangyayari kasi dyan, because of the way the parliamentary system works, people will be forced to think more about the parties. Instead of choosing people based on sino yung sikat, you're now going to think, teka lang, kung iboboto ko ang partido na ito, sino ang leader ng partido na ito? At sino yung magiging most likely prime minister? So yung titingnan mo, yung partido, and what does the party stand for? Okay? That's why here in Europe, people talk about political platforms. People talk about what does this party stand for. In the Philippines, no one gives a shit. Sorry about that. No one cares. No one cares. Yeah, no one cares about what they stand for.
Ideology, for example, Liberal Party, they don't care.
They don't.
What's the ideology of Liberal Party?
You know what's so weird about the Liberal Party? Everyone who's watching on YouTube, on Facebook, on live. The thing about, you know what's so wrong about the Liberal Party? Is that they are not even liberal.
Exactly. That's what I
Didn't understand what liberal.
You know, the liberal movement around the world talks about allowing free entry of investors, upward social mobility by the creation of jobs. Why is it that the Philippine Liberal Party is so anti-foreign investment?
Contradicts by the party state.
Wala eh. Tapos yung ano nga ng mga liberal international, gusto nila ng open form of government that allows tawag ito, better competition, parliamentary system. Ba't sila kumukontra sa paglipat sa bagong sistema? In fact, liberal nga yung mag-federalism kasi nga bibigyan mo ng chance ang mga regions to decide for themselves what they want.
Yun nga malaking tanong, bakit?
Oh, ba't sila kumukontra sa federalism? Tingnan nyo yung mga sila kumukontra. Puro liberal party.
Liberal lang sila sa corruption.
Oh, pangalan lang. Actually, I have a story there. Prior to 2010, the Liberal Party had a faithful manifesto to the principles of liberalism. Okay? They had an old website. Okay, they had an old website. I think it was liberalparty.ph or something like that. And when you look at it, they talk about bringing in foreign investors, ganyan, mga pursuing greater openness of our form of government, mga ganon. They were open to that. Even Butch Abad used to be talking about shifting to the parliamentary system before. But when they started talking about bringing in Noynoy Aquino as their standard bearer, they changed their tune. Kasi si Noynoy, siyempre, ayaw niya na baguhin ang konstitusyon ng kanyang nanay. So, lahat sila, sige sir, sige, para kayo na yung magiging standard bearer natin. Sige, we will follow whatever you want. Pero now they are actually totally illiberal in terms of, dapat nga i-sanction sila ng Liberal International eh. Because they have absolutely nothing to do with liberalism. So, anyway, so parliamentary system. Bakit magandang parliamentary system? Kasi kapag nagkaroon ka ng parliamentary system, less ang gulo. Less ang gulo. Ang nangyayari, yung batayan ng pagpili ng sino yung magiging top manager, top leader, prime minister, is usually, first of all, ano ang pinanindigan ng partido. Diba? And within the party, pipiliin nila yung sino yung tatingin nila ang pinakamagaling among them to become the prime minister. Hindi siya yung sino yung pinakasikat. No, it's going to be sino sa tingin nila ang pinakamagaling na maisusulong ang agenda ng majority bloc. Yun. We will have less of the personality politics. I'm not saying there will be no personality politics. There will still be. But it will be now platform politics over personality politics. Whereas right now in the Philippines, under our current system, we have personality politics and platform politics is of a much lower standard. So, talagang ganyan. So, babalik na rin natin by shifting to a parliamentary system. Now, si President Duterte has been talking about, we'll start first with a French-style system. So, yung French-style system is a semi-presidential system. Okay, it's not a parliamentary system. It's kind of like a parliamentary system. But it is going to be good as a transition. Kasi hindi naman pwedeng presidential mas biglang parliamentary. Dadaan muna ng step, ng transitional step. Presidential, semi-presidential system, tapos parliamentary. Kasi importante na may nakabantay, and I'm hoping talaga na magko-continue pa si President Duterte na siya ang nakabantay. Okay? Meron siyang sinasabi na pagkatapos ng mga reformang ito, mag-step down na ako. Sana hindi. Kasi kung ibang tao ang magbabantay, baka iba yung agenda niya eh. Diba? What we need, this is my personal thing. I feel dapat talaga si Duterte ang babantay. Kasi, total, tumatanda na rin naman siya. Matanda na siya. And then by the time that the reforms do happen, he will be much older already. So he will need to he will need to delegate a lot of the duties, the day-to-day duties, to whoever will be the Prime Minister. Tapos siya, tagabantay na lang siya.
Yeah.
Diba? It makes sense. So, yun ang mas maganda. And in fact, kung pwede nga magkaroon ng pagbabago sa term ng President para magkaroon ng re-election, please. And he should be given a second term to see through these transitions.
Why not go back to the...
And that's the part where he would become more and more ceremonial. And it will become more similar to the parliamentary systems in Europe, where the head of state is largely ceremonial, but well respected. Germany, yeah.
The president has no power in the government.
Exactly. So ganun. Sa Singapore, ganun din. Diba?
Why not go back to our old parliamentary system, and why do we have to adopt the French?
And we have to declare martial law.
No. So going through the French system would be a transition. It's basically a transition. It's probably going to be 3 years to 6 years long. By the end of that, gradually lessen yung power ratio between the president and the prime minister. Later on, magiging reserve powers na lang ang naiwan sa president, and most of the real decision making is now the prime minister by that time. So, but this is the way transitions like that happen. It's usually gradual. Someone had a question earlier?
Kasi di ba yung problema sa atin niya, parang mahirap pa rin. Di ba yung corruption, naman talaga ang corruption. Paano yun
Okay, yes, and that's what I need to talk about. So, in the parliamentary system, you will notice that what happens is sino yung partido or yung coalition sa loob ng parliament na naging majority, okay, they will name who the prime minister is, and they will also name, the prime minister will name who his ministers are going to be. But, on the other hand, that's for the majority. And yung minority, yung opposition, they will do the same. The minority will choose who will be the leader of the opposition, and each ministry will also be given a representative coming from the opposition. That person will, for the Ministry of Education, for example, which is led by the Minister of Education from the majority, there will be a corresponding shadow Minister of Education coming from the minority, who will be watching over everything that happens within the Ministry of Education. And then the same thing goes with Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of whatever. Lahat ng ministry may corresponding na opposition member na nakabantay. Kung may kailangan i-sign na document, like a purchase order or something like that, nakabantay ang taga-opposition. So there's greater transparency. Because when the minister, from the official minister of that ministry, who comes from the majority, is going to sign something, nandyan yung taga-opposition nakabantay, makikita niya kung may anomalya. And kung meron nga siyang na-observe na anomalya, he can do a check and balance. He can raise it within Parliament and grill the minister. I call upon the Minister of Education to please answer my questions. Blah, 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 blah. So yung magtatanong, bakit ganito? Ba't sobrang overbloated yung presyo ng ganito? Yung usual presyo nito, ganito lang. Bakit bigyan may malaking patong? Blah, 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 blah. May madali yan. And it's legally obliged na talagang every single document, every single purchase order, whatever, is vetted also by the opposition. We don't have that in our current system. In our current system, everything can be done behind closed doors, and only the people within the administration know about what's going on. But in the parliamentary system, the opposition has to know. And it is in the interest of the opposition to try to find errors. Maghahanap sila ng butas, di ba? Kasi gusto nilang, siyempre gusto nilang mapapol yung majority para sila next time ang magiging majority. It's competition basically. And competition is what makes things better, right? In the marketplace, you know, you have different brands. Diba? You have to compete against other brands by either having lower price or higher quality. And that's the same thing in Parliament. In Parliament, you want to beat your competition, you have to show you guys are better than them. You have to show na, uy, may mga mali silang ginawa, we can do better than that. Competition is what will cause the Philippines to improve at every level. Economic liberalization, the more you have companies coming in, the companies, they will compete against each other by improving quality, and also they will compete against each other in trying to attract people to work for them. It's different right now, because right now it's the applicants who are competing against each other. Sir, ako na lang ang tanggapin nyo. Kung ano man yung in-offer niyo sa kanyang sweldo, mas mababa sa akin, okay lang. Diba? Kasi ang daming taong nag-a-apply. Every year, ang daming graduates natin, kakaunti lang ang trabaho. So yung mga aplikante ang nagsasabi, Sir, ako na lang, kung ito yung sweldo in-offer niyo sa kanya, babaan natin ng 5%. Ako yan yung sa akin.
Tapos sunod-sunod sila.
Di ba? Ganun na nangyayari. Ang gusto natin, hindi ang mga aplikante ang nagko-compete. Ang gusto natin, ang kumpanya ang nagko-compete. Dito na kayo sa amin, mag-apply. Mas malaki ang offer namin kaysa dun sa kabila. Tapos yung kabila naman sabi, hindi. Mas tataasan namin. Sige, dito na lang kayo. Competition. Ganun din sa Singapore. It's competition. At every level. Federalism. Ang mangyayari dyan pag nag-federalize tayo, the different regions will be competing against each other. They will have to compete. So if Region 7 wants to gain a lot of investors, they will have to make sure that their infrastructure is right, that their way of governing is transparent, no red tape, di ba? And then the other regions will do the same. Hindi. Gagantahin namin. Okay. Yes.
Nandun po tayo sa parliamentary system. Nakonsider na po ba natin o posible po ba na ang mga posisyon sa gobyerno ay career-based, imbes na pamilya, political dynasty? Halimbawa, sa atin kasi, pag ginagawang habi lang ang isang political position halimbawa, mag-start sila at a young age at nag-aral talaga sila sa politika. For example, barangay tanod, next time magiging consider sila. Para at least magkaroon ng para bang professionalism.
Well, yun ang mangyayari sa parliamentary system. Pag nag-parliamentary system kasi, within the party, yung leadership positions within the party are based on competence and experience. So yung sa loob ng partido, gaganyan kasi sila sino yung gagawin nating prime minister, sino yung gagawin nating leader, sino yung gagawin nating assistant, etc. It's all going to be based on all the members of the political party proving themselves. So kinakailangan ipakita na magaling sila. Okay? So yun yung importante. Feedback na yan. Okay? So, dun sa civil service, importante din yung magkakaroon ng permanent secretary. The permanent secretary is usually the top civil servant. The minister, on the other hand, the minister will always be a politician. Okay, will always be a member of parliament, and so the minister drives direction of where we're going. The permanent secretary, who is a civil servant who rose through the ranks, this is someone who will basically execute and provide expert advice about what needs to be done. So, yung taong yan, yung permanent secretary will never be an outsider na parang appointee lang. Hindi. He has to be someone who rose through the ranks of the civil service. So, ganun. The delineation there is ministers are basically politicians coming from the majority party, setting up the general direction. permanent secretaries are the experts coming from the civil service. Ganon.
Tanong ko lang po, so pag under po ng parliamentary system, so yung mga barangay sa atin mawawala na po yun?
Well, actually, sa ibang mga bansa, meron din silang mga parang...
Kasi kakagaya po sa Germany, they are also federalism, no? Wala silang barangay eh. Every town is mayor lang.
Mayor lang, okay. So wala silang mga wards? Walang mga subdivisions? Wala, okay. So in other countries kasi, like even in the States, they would have... yung mga tawag doon, mga parang wards yata yan, and then they have, basta meron silang mga barangay. We don't necessarily need to have that also. These positions, we can have barangays as just a subdivision such that yung mga councilor manggagaling sa mga barangay. We can still have that. But these are some things that need to be looked at. Doesn't necessarily mean kapag nag-shift tayo to parliamentary, mawawala na yan. We can repurpose it. In other countries, they have things called, like I think in France, yung parishes, parois, parang ganon, which are subdivisions within a town.
Depends on how the Constitutional Assembly will frame up our new
system. Yes.
Siguro, pwede customize ang parliamentary system to the needs of the people.
Yes, totally.
Kasi otherwise, yung taking from one or two, yung hindi naman bagay sa akin, it won't work.
Ang nakikita akong sistemang magandang gamitin as a roadmap for how we will end up with a federal parliamentary system is Spain. Okay? Bakit Spain? Kasi ang Spain, katulad natin, divided into regions and provinces. So may mga provinces ang Spain. So how did they turn themselves into a federation? Today, Spain is actually a kind of federal system. Para silang federation, pero officially on paper hindi. Okay? Officially on paper, Spain is not a federation. But they act like one. And for all intents and purposes, they actually are. How did they do it? It was different provinces. They told the provinces, magsama-sama kayo based on your commonalities. And based on that, magsama kayo and then form regions. So yung mga regions na pare-pareho yung salita, yung mga Catalan-speaking provinces nagsama-sama, yung mga Valenciano na nagsama-sama, yung mga historically considered Andaluz, yung nagsama sila, naging Andalusia. Parang gano'n nagsasama-sama, all the different Basque provinces nagsama-sama into the Basque country. So, we can do the same. Our different provinces can decide, medyo pareho naman tayo, sige, magsama-sama na tayo into one region.
If there is unity.
Yeah. And I think
the problem.
And the thing is, we will give incentives. We have to give incentives to them that this is going to be better if you join. Because if you join, you have better economies of scale. It will be easier for you to share your resources. Because if you're just one small province, it's probably going to be harder for you. But if you join together with other provinces, you're a bigger unit. You will be able to pool your resources together and have better governance there. So, ganun siya. Alright? Now, I'll just mention a few things. I want you all to understand, pag sinabi parliamentary system, kung for example, pumunta kayo nag-Google kayo, hinanap nyo yung GDP per capita ng mga bansa. Ililistahin nyo, sino yung pinaka-richest country in terms of which are the richest countries according to GDP per capita versus which are the poorest countries according to GDP per capita. Makikita nyo, yung mga majority of the top 30 countries are parliamentary systems.
Yeah.
Tapos tingnan nyo yung mga lowest ranking ones, yung mga pinakakulelhat na country, poorest countries. Marami doon. Presidential.
That's Islam.
Oh. Tapos, ganun din sa pag you go to the Global Economic Competitiveness Index. Pareho ang kalabasan. If you go to Transparency International and look at the Corruption Perceptions Index, sino yung mga least corrupt countries in the world? Tingnan ninyo. Makikita na puro parliamentary. Ha? Tapos yung mga pinaka-corrupt, presidential. I mean, you do it for everything. Human Development Index, lahat, Property Rights Index, whatever. Lahat ng mga indices that have anything to do with comparing countries against each other. Best passports in the world. Di ba meron ganon? Ha? Best and worst passports in the world. Lilistahin ninyo. Lilistahin ninyo. Top countries in the world are parliamentary.
Number 4 country.
And usually, there is only 1 or 2 presidential systems in that list. Within the top 30, nandyan yung US, which is a presidential system. Nandyan yung France, which is a semi-presidential system. And usually sila lang dalawa. All the rest are parliamentary. Diba? So it's malinaw na malinaw talaga. Malinaw talaga. Parliamentary systems are superior to presidential systems. Tayo lang sa Pilipinas ang na-brainwash na, kailangan natin gumaya sa US kasi yung napapanood natin mga movies na Hollywood. Ha? Yung presidenteng kumukontra sa mga alien, Amerikano presidente. Mga ganun, di ba? Sa ID4, ano pa ba yung iba?
Basta marami.
Ang daming movies, di ba? Ha? Yung mga kalaban ni Superman. Saan siya bumisita? Sa White House. Di ba? Akala natin, akala natin na ang leader ng mundo ay yung US President. Kasi brainwash tayo Okay? So yun lang po. Okay? Wala nang tanong?
Meron pa akong tanong.
May tanong pa.
Lagi natin pinag-uusapan ang blessings of federalism. Pero yung mga criticism ng federalism, paano po ma-assure ng federalism kung kung aamendahan ang ating saligang batas na mawawala na po ang tawag dyan, yung
mga dynasties.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dynasty.
Okay. So, importante ito. Let's extend this. So, I will talk about some of the misconceptions about federalism. And many of these misconceptions, by the way, are mga invento ng mga dilawan. Invento nila. Ha? Punta kayo sa Google. Mag-research kayo. Ha? Mag-research kayo about federalism. Wala kayong makikitang mga sinasabi nila. Meron silang paboritong sinasabi kontra sa federalism, which is federalism is going to worsen the warlords and dynasties in the Philippines. Ulul! Ang mga nagagawa niyan, ha? Ang naging bento niyan, yan sila Christian Monsod. Ha?
Lagi kanila pinatira.
Si Christian Monsod, ang naging bento niyan, Christian Monsod at si Winnie Monsod. Huwag kang pasaway. Teka, ito. So, explain ko. Yung sinasabi nilang, federalism will worsen warlords and dynasties. May problema sila sa kanilang mata. Kasi hindi po federalism ang ganyan. Feudalism yun! Ha? Ayusin nyo, baka may cataract kayo.
Yung pangalawang criticism nila ay sa yung iba daw region, halimbawa independent na may autonomy. Yung ibang region daw,
Sisisid daw.
may ang tawag dyan, yung iba magiging maunlad, yung iba naman ay maiiwang poor.
Okay. Yeah, competition talaga. So, ang mangyayari,
ang sabi kasi nila, lahat tayo Pilipino, dapat sabay-sabay ang pag-unlad. Paano
Hindi po nangyayari yan.
Hindi sa
sagutin mo muna. So, yung issue na yan, non-issue yan. Kasi, it's all based on, ba't nyo binoto yung walang kwentang partido na yan sa lugar na yan? Kaya nga maganda na mag-federal parliamentary. Kasi, kung palpak
Madaling palitan.
Madaling palitan. So nangyari dyan sa isang region, lahat ng region na sinabi, we are going to improve our infrastructure and bring in foreign investors, etc. Tapos may isang region na nagsabi, hindi, magiging mayabang kami, proud kami, ayaw namin ng foreign investor. Yan, sige. Hindi naging naiwan sila. Lahat ng the rest of the Philippines, nag-bring in ng maraming trabaho. Kasi itong isang lugar na to, hindi. Magagalit kayo yung mga mamamayan doon. Sasabihin nila, walang kwenta pa lang mga liderato natin. Kasi, ang trabaho nandun sa ibang mga region, sa atin wala. Kung parliamentary, pwede nilang petisyonin na tanggalin yung ano na yan. Partido na yung leader na yan, magkakaroon ng new elections, tanggal, palit. Self-correcting ang mangyayari. Okay? There are incentives and disincentives basically. So, kung magaling ang leaders nyo sa lugar nyo, uunlad kayo. Kung walang kwenta ang leaders nyo, syempre, kasalanan nyo, ba't nyo sila binoto? Yun. Okay, ano yung isang question?
Yun ang pangalawang question.
Ayan si Marty.
Hindi, yung sa akin lang kasi, di ba, in a democracy, everybody has the right to come up with a party. So, I was already, I kind of expect, I am for federalism and everything, but I'm also expecting those oligarchic families or the political dynasty to form their own parties and possibly win a parliamentary seat. Can we stop them from doing that? Of course not, right?
We can't.
But it is a possibility that this family could still reign during the transition period, etc. And so
it's okay because the worst case is not having any change. Kasi right now we're actually in a really bad situation.
Yep.
So we need to change it. Even if the change is not, we should not aim for a perfect society overnight because we can't.
Kasi even if they win, they need to form alliances with other parties in order to govern.
Yeah.
Kasi hindi naman sila magiging majority, 60% boto sa kanila lang.
Ganito yan eh. Yung oligarchs, yung mga oligarchs, the oligarchs who join politics, if they want, okay, kaya na. If they want to continue in power, they will have to deliver. Okay? They will have to do a good job. So it doesn't really matter if they are members of a dynasty or not. What matters is they do a good job. So they are going to be forced to do a good job because the system is competitive.
And there's a minority that would oversee their work.
Exactly.
Yes!
Okay, kaya na?
Ilapag mo na.
Dapat na. So, mga kababayan, okay, we're still gonna be here, pero yung mga tao sa live, make sure, everyone here, please make sure you go to your phones and check out correctphilippines.org. Okay? correctphilippines.org. Puntahan ninyo. Kasi Constitutional Reform and Rectification for Economic Competitiveness and Transformation. Puntahan nyo yung website. Nandun lahat ng maraming mga articles about why all these are necessary.
One question. Will you be willing to be a representative in the Constitutional Convention if it will happen?
Pwede siguro.
Ayun, ulit tanong, kailan ito possibility? Kasi I know that Digong promised this during his... So, kailan ito mag-start? And how can we help push for parliamentary federalism? Because this is just a forum as far as we're concerned right now. But when is the exact date? What are the exact time frame? When we need to act, when we need to be united, when we need to go around and tell other people that, yeah, we need this, we need to push for this, etc.
Sino yung mga representative?
I think PDP also has the...
Yeah, they have.
The PDP also has the...
Yeah, but any time frame that you could...
Yeah, we're waiting for the go signal from the admin kasi they're still...
Yeah.
Well, they already started some preliminary...
They already started.
Last December, they already had some preliminary sessions all about constitutional reform. Last December pa lang. So, yun.
gusto nyo tanongin si Orion, tanongin nyo siya personal, pero we need to wrap up kasi we need to serve food hanggang 2 p.m. lang tayo dito. Meron po tayong kasunod na event. Pero maraming salamat, Orion. At pwede niyo po siyang tanungin at meron pong sinaserve na angskalo.
Yung
gawa. Angskalo!
yes.